So, good morning, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about malaria. Malaria is a parasite infection transmitted by the Anopheles mosquito that leads to a acute life-threatening disease and poses a significant global health threat. Malaria is not caused by a bacteria or a virus. It is caused by Plasmodium parasites, in which requires bite from female Anopheles mosquitoes and injects the parasites in the bloodstream. So, the disease commonly presents as an acute febrile illness with symptoms such as fever, chills, and headache. If untreated, especially in Plasmodium falciparum infections, it may rapidly progress to severe illness or death within 24 hours. So, fever is the result of multiplication of parasites and destruction of your red blood cells. We all know that red blood cells carries oxygen and nutrients that is important in our body. This is also one of the reason why malaria patient is susceptible with anemia. And if left untreated, it will lead to um, severe health outcomes such as multi-organ dysfunction, respiratory distress, and cerebral malaria, and many more. Most vulnerable groups include young children. Of course, young children have not fully developed their immune system, and pregnant women, travelers, and people with weakened immune system because of the lack of exposure and antibodies that helps to fight against infection.
Malaria is a disease caused by protozoa infection, a parasite in the Plasmodium genus spread by female Anopheles mosquitoes. Malaria is common in tropical areas where it's hot and humid, and most cases happen in Africa and South Asia. The Plasmodium species that infect humans are P. falciparum, P. vivax, P. ovale, P. malariae, and P. knowlesi. For the nutrition-related pathophysiology, according to Back and Finnegan 2023, it all begins when an infected female Anopheles mosquito takes a blood meal. During this bite, the mosquito sporozoites into the injects rather sporozoites into the human bloodstream and replicate in the gut. During subsequent blood meals, saliva containing sporozoites get released into a human host's bloodstream. Within 60 minutes, sporozoites reach the liver, invade hepatocytes, and then rapidly divide, forming merozoites. In an active infection, organisms re-enter the bloodstream and invade erythrocytes. Now, depending on the Plasmodium species, these sporozoites behave differently once they reach the liver. For Plasmodium vivax and Plasmodium ovale, some sporozoites become dormant forms called hypnozoites, where inactive intrahepatic parasites remain until reactivation months to years in the future. On the other hand, P. falciparum, P. malariae, and P. knowlesi, the sporozoites immediately mature and multiply sexually, forming merozoites. And when the liver cells rupture, merozoites are released into the bloodstream. Within erythrocytes, plasmodium consumes hemoglobin and develop from mature trophozoites or ring stage to either mature trophozoites or gametocytes. Inside the red blood cells, trophozoites can follow two different paths. Some continue to grow and become mature trophozoites, forming schizones, disrupting erythrocyte cell membrane integrity, and leading to capillary endothelial adherence and psoriasis or causes hemolytic anemia. Since the red blood cells are destroyed by both parasite and by the immune system, while others develop into the gametocytes, which are the sexual forms needed to continue transmission back into mosquitoes, and the pathogenesis follows of the toxin-induced IFN gamma and TFN alpha secretion. The innate immune responses is dominated by monocyte and macrophage phagocytosis within the splenic red pulp. Adaptive immunity develops by IFN gamma and TNF alpha-induced class switching of CD4 positive lymphocytes. TFN also suppresses hematopoiesis, which contributes to anemia. As a result, patient develops fever, headaches, and splenomegaly, an enlarged spleen because it is working overtime to filter infected cells. With progression, symptoms worsen to include abdominal pain, extreme fatigue, loss of appetite, nausea, and vomiting. From a nutritional perspective, this is very important because fever and inflammation significantly increases the body's energy requirements, while loss of appetite and vomiting reduce food intake. Vomiting and sweating may cause dehydration also and electrolyte imbalances. In the long term, the imbalances lead to inadequate energy intake, altered laboratory values such as low hemoglobin and dehydration. All of these factors worsen the patient's overall nutritional status, making recovery more difficult.
So, dietary management of malaria. So, when aiming for optimal nutrition, these are the best foods for malaria. First is your high protein foods. Malaria can induce hypermetabolic and hypercatabolic state, and protein is essential for the repair of damaged tissues as well as to produce antibodies and immune cells to fight against the infection. Aside from that, it also helps to regenerate the red blood cells because it is part of the building blocks and prevent further muscle loss. And fruits and vegetables. It's because fruits and vegetables has high antioxidants, minerals, phytochemicals, and vitamins that help boost the immune system and promote overall health, especially with vitamin C rich food sources. Vitamin C has antioxidant effect and it neutralizes the um, uh, free radicals generated by the malaria infection. And it also has a synergistic effect with your iron, which is important among malaria patients. And aside from that, incorporate with minerals such as zinc, selenium, um, uh, iron, as well as magnesium. And whole grains because malaria patient has increased energy demands because of the energy expenditure to fight against infection or to cope with this stimulus. And this includes brown rice, quinoa, whole wheat bread, oats, barley, and millet. And aside from that, it provides fiber, which is good for the gut health, and B vitamins for the energy production as a coenzyme, minerals like magnesium and zinc. And healthy fats. The diet of malaria patients should include natural sources of fat, especially food containing omega-3 fatty acids or monounsaturated and fatty acid because it reduces the inflammation and it is good for the heart. And it is also helps the for the absorption of your fat soluble vitamins, which is important for the immune function. Fluids, it is important to drink plenty of water throughout the day. It's because one of the signs of malaria is loss of appetite, nausea, and vomiting. In order to replenish those electrolytes and fluid, we should incorporate proper fluids and electrolytes as well. That's why we incorporate natural fruit juices. And also to manage the body temperature and prevent further dehydration. And iron-rich foods because malaria destroy the red blood cells. It is important to incorporate back the iron for the red blood cells um, production to transport oxygen and nutrient properly in the body. And these are the foods need to avoid sugary and processed foods, high fat and fried foods, especially sugar because excessive sugar promotes inflammation. And high fat also it has a slow gastric emptying, which further uh, worsen the digestive issues and may not provide essential nutrients needed for the body to recover. And alcohol and caffeine. Alcohol can interfere with the medication because alcohol is metabolized in the liver, as well as the anti-malarial medication is also processed in the liver. So it interrupts or interfere and making it harder for the body to recover from the infection.